In the year 2000, audiences around the world watched Julia Roberts hold up an Academy Award for her portrayal of a legal clerk who brought a billion-dollar utility company to its knees. The film told the story of a massive legal victory, ending with a record-breaking $333 million settlement paid out to a poisoned community. But to understand what actually happened, we have to pull back from the Hollywood ending and look at the physical reality of the Mojave Desert in the 1950s. Pacific Gas and Electric built a compressor station here in the remote town of Hinkley, California, to keep pressure flowing through its natural gas pipeline network. Keeping that heavy machinery from overheating required massive cooling towers, and to stop the metal inside those towers from rusting, PG&E pumped a highly effective chemical called chromium-6 directly into the cooling water. This diagram shows exactly where that chemical went next. PG&E collected the chromium-laced water in unlined surface ponds. Because the ponds lacked any protective barrier, the chemical leached straight down through the desert soil, pouring directly into the underground aquifer that supplied Hinkley's private drinking wells. As you can see in this diagram, there is a crucial difference in the chemical structure. By 1966, PG&E's own testing showed their chemical was in the local water supply. Instead of fixing the problem, they managed the information. Company representatives told residents the water contained naturally occurring benign chromium-3, while the tests proved it was actually chromium-6, a known carcinogen. Families drinking, cooking, and bathing in this water began experiencing highly unusual, geographically concentrated waves of illness. Residents suffered through nosebleeds, autoimmune disorders, miscarriages, and aggressive cancers with zero family history. Faced with a lethal, ongoing public health catastrophe entirely of their own making, the utility company made a calculated decision. They treated the poisoned water not as an emergency to solve, but as a financial risk to contain. When a single mother named Erin Brockovich walked into Hinkley in 1993 to investigate some unusual real estate records, she had absolutely no formal legal training. What she did have was the ability to gather human intelligence. She didn't interview the residents with the stiff, formal distance of a corporate lawyer. She sat in their kitchens, learned their children's names, and built genuine trust with a deeply skeptical community that had been lied to for decades. This map illustrates the result of that trust. By documenting every individual illness, Brockovich created a clear geographic pattern. Over 600 plaintiffs clustered exactly along the path of the contaminated underground water. Her legal firm recognized the plaintiffs were actively sick and couldn't wait for a drawn-out jury trial, so they opted for binding arbitration, forcing a faster resolution outside a traditional courtroom. The strategy worked. In 1996, the arbitrators forced PG&E to pay $333 million, entirely funding the victims, in what was the largest direct action legal settlement in American history. A massive check is handed over. The victims are compensated. This is exactly where the famous movie rolls its credits. It feels like justice. But a paper check cannot neutralize a physical toxin. The money compensated the plaintiffs for their suffering, but it did absolutely nothing to remove the chemicals still saturating the earth beneath their homes. In the years following the massive payout, California regulators returned to test the wells. They found that the toxic plume of hexavalent chromium was completely uncontained. It was still moving. Cleaning up an underground aquifer is an engineering nightmare. You have to continuously pump contaminated water out, treat it, and painstakingly remove the source material from deep within the dense desert soil, a grueling process that can take decades to complete. Regulators did force PG&E to initiate these extensive cleanup operations, deploying crews and specialized equipment across the desert. Yet the toxic plume persisted in the physical environment, defying quick fixes. The legal system operates on a timeline of verdicts and settlements. The environment operates on a timeline of geology and fluid dynamics. The lawsuit was officially over, but the poisoning of Hinkley was ongoing. As public knowledge of the unstoppable plume grew, the town's local economy simply collapsed. Property values flatlined overnight, businesses were forced to shutter their doors, and anyone who could afford to flee the area did. This created a devastating irony. Many of the plaintiffs who had just received massive settlement checks were suddenly wealthy on paper, but they were trapped living on unsellable land, carrying the physical damage of the chemical deep inside their own bodies. Drive through Hinkley today, and you won't find a recovering community. You will find a hollowed-out ghost town of abandoned structures and empty dirt roads. The legal battle did yield lasting consequences outside the desert. The financial strain of the $333 million penalty pushed PG&E into a historic bankruptcy in 2001, and the intense public scrutiny forced California to establish entirely new strict drinking water regulations for chromium-6. A courtroom can hold a corporation financially accountable. It can levy fines, force bankruptcies, and transfer wealth to victims. But no judge and no amount of money has the power to unpoison the earth.